many of you guys have talked to cops or police before in your life? Was it a good experience, bad experience? Have any of them made you feel uncomfortable in a way like they're supposed to be protecting you, but they're actually breaking the law? Today we're going to be talking about Daniel Holtzclaw's controversial case. Is this a cop really innocent or guilty? This is a really confusing case, and it really gets you to double think about why finding exact, legitimate evidence is so important when it comes to convicting someone. Is this an innocent man that was just put into life in prison, or is he a evil, dirty cop? I am so torn between the evidences. I am 50-50, so I need your help finding out what exactly could have happened. Again, a little disclaimer, I'm still healing from my wisdom teeth. It's been like over 2 weeks now. My right side was a big surgery, and I still feel like my bones are all broken down right here. Like, also talking about pain, I just want to share a little bit of something very personal. I've been dealing with anxiety for a very long time, and recently it's gotten really bad. I'm not sure what the reason was, and it's got into a bit of depression. I wanted to find someone that I could talk to, take the weight off of my shoulders, and I'm so glad that I found Cerebral. They are a mental health platform with prescription services, counseling, and therapy, and I've been talking to my counselor for about 3 months now. If you're also dealing with anxiety, depression, insomnia, and other conditions, you can get affordable help with or without insurance. The best thing about Cerebral is the fact that it is online, so you don't have to go and travel anywhere. Doing an online call is one of the best things about technology these days, and just being at the comfort of your home is so much easier to open up to people. My counselors and prescribers have been all so kind to me. They always ask me, how are you? What's been going on? How has it been for a month? How has the medications been working? And that just puts a really calm into your mind, the fact that there is someone that cares about you and your well-being. If you want to take the next step on working on your mental health, remember to click the link down below where you could get your first month of Cerebral for only $30 and to try it out. Don't always deal with it alone, seek help, and that's what I did. Thank you so much to Cerebral, not just for partnering up with me today, but the fact that I have an online counselor that I could depend on anytime that I want. So a huge shout out, thank you Cerebral. This is Daniel Holtzclaw. He is half Japanese, half American. He was born on December 10th, 1986 and was only 26 years old at the time. His father was also a lieutenant, and I also believe his mother worked in the law enforcement. His whole family was really big in that department. He was a big guy. He was 6'1". He had broad shoulders. He was a football player back in high school, and he wanted to play for the NFL, but when he didn't make it, he decided to join his second choice in career, which was criminal justice. As you can see, this is a big guy. He went to the gym a lot. He took a lot of muscle enhancements. I mean, he was huge. And that's how he met his girlfriend, bonding over their love for physical health. Both of them attended church every week, and he was described as a good, kind-hearted Christian boy. And although he was a big guy, they describe him as this like a big, soft teddy bear. All his classmates, teammates, past relationships, everyone did describe him to be a very quiet, kind guy. The trouble started sometime around June 2014 when it was the end of his shift, but he decided to make a traffic stop. Number one, the strange thing was that his shift ended, like I said, but he decided to pull someone over and technically do some more work. Second weird thing was that he turned off all his computer system inside the police car. Apparently, there is a computer system inside the car where you could look people up for warrants, run car tags, the GPS system that's inside the car that shows the police department where the police car traveled at all times. He claims that he does this sometimes, you know, when his shift ends. Some police people do that, some don't. Apparently, he's supposed to keep it on for 24/7. I'm not sure. I'm not a police. The person that he stopped was a woman named Janie Liggins. She was a 57-year-old grandmother who ran a daycare. Daniel claims that she was swerving the road, and he was concerned as there might be something wrong with the driver being drunk, you know, under the influence. When he stopped her, he did pat her down, and she admitted to have smoked marijuana. It was only 2 hours later when this woman would go inside the police department to file a report that a police officer has sexually harassed her. on. Details of what happened to her, I'm not going to say into the video. I'll put some links down if you want to see more specific details, but she was SA. She claimed she was afraid for her life and begged the police officer to stop. The police department soon found out that it was Daniel Holtzclaw that stopped this woman that day. He also never reported the stop to the department, which you're supposed to do, I heard. I don't know how common this is to not report your stops, but supposedly they say this is against the police department rules. So he was put into an interrogation room and they started interviewing him to see what was the truth and if this really happened. And if it did, I mean, it's disgusting that a police officer would do this to random normal civilians. Daniel denied everything and he claims that he usually turns off his computer in the car after his shift. After petting down Janie, he says that he just warned her about safe driving and let her go. He did say that she was very nervous, you know, saying that maybe he will shoot her. You know, he told her to calm down and everything is alright.
You see my concern here.
I'm just listening to you, sir.
I know, but I'd rather listen to you and you start talking.
That's all I have, sir.
We can get skin cells, we can get we can do all that and still get DNA.
Right.
We can fall on the sword
Okay.
and say I screwed up or something, but if we say we didn't do it, we didn't do it, we didn't do it, and then the DNA comes back and says he did it, then we have a huge problem.
Right.
We're here to give you the chance to fall on the sword, so we don't want a huge problem. We don't want a huge problem for you.
Right.
This is time. It's time. If it touched her mouth, if it touched the inside of her mouth for 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, you gotta tell us now.
Look,
Right.
there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in between a rape being forced and some old girl who wants it.
Right.
Okay, we've had plenty of that.
We get that. We know that.
Okay, but there is a big difference. Okay.
Right. Sir, I'm sticking with my story. I'm
Okay. On the video, are we gonna see her?
shouldn't see her boobs. I didn't see her boobs.
Okay. Are we gonna see her pull her pants down?
I didn't see her pull her pants down.
Ultimately, he denied everything that Janie told the police about the harassment, including Janie claiming that the police officer made her lift her shirt up. But at the end of the interrogation, they stripped him of his clothes just in case there would be any evidence. This interrogation has been a bit of a hot debate because if you see Daniel's responses to these incriminating, like shocking accusations, he's surprisingly very calm. According to the interrogator and some people, they believe that if you've been accused of something that you didn't do, especially like SA or a high criminal charge, I mean, you would kind of get angry.
The other girl that he's talking about is kind of making the same allegations, and that's weird.
Yeah, that's
Doesn't look good.
I mean, that's
it doesn't
weird.
look. Yeah, it
That's
doesn't look
weird.
good. So, no, I don't. No one with the city rescue mission. Never been asked. Never been offered anyone to go there.
Do you give people rides sometimes?
I do give people rides.
Do
I do.
Because sometimes I'd be like, I am not a taxi cab.
I'll go
But
rides.
we always.
You would have a bit more emotions than how Daniel did. The interrogator described Daniel as a robot. He had zero emotions. You know, honestly, like I've talked to the police before, and whenever they were asking me or trying to accuse me of something, I was very calm and collected. Like I didn't get angry. I just said no, I didn't do it. And I am the type to be a bit more calm when it comes to that. And Daniel was in the police enforcement, so maybe that's one of the reasons why he acted that way. And everyone's personality is different, but it is odd that he was so calm and collected with these crazy accusations. Police found an unknown female DNA inside of Daniel's pants. They didn't know who this was, and they believed that there had to be more victims, so they decided to get the list of all the females that Daniel searched or he came into contact with. So they came up with this target list, which was African American women, mostly in poverty, and was in trouble with the law, such as having warrants out, addictions, and etc. They believe that he targeted these women specifically because they were easy targets. They wouldn't speak out against an officer, and in exchange for favors, they would not be arrested. So this is what the police believed Daniel was doing. They went door to door to find these women who could have been potential victims, and actually many of the women came forward to say that indeed they had been assaulted by a police officer. Another woman who came forward says that she was taken to a hospital by Daniel due to drugs, and while she was cuffed to the hospital bed, that's when she was SA'd. Another really strange thing is, after this incident, Daniel friended this woman on Facebook, and there's a chat log actually of him asking if everything was okay, asking her for her number to see if they could call, which was super odd. Police officer friending you on Facebook and asking if you were okay and your phone number. It did not look good for him. It was also proven that Daniel went to this victim's house in his personal car, in his quote, to check up on her. It's a little bit crossing the line in my opinion, but what do you guys think? Although Daniel claims that he was just trying to be a good police officer because during this incident she was telling him about, the hard life that she had, so he felt a little bit of, sympathy towards her and wanted to see if she was okay, being an extra good cop, I guess. And phone call records show that the calls were only for about 5 seconds, which they believe Daniel called her but she never picked up. So the victim claimed that he was being very sexual with her during the phone calls and she was very uncomfortable, but that he wasn't doing it on the chats, obviously, so that, there would be no evidences kept. But again, they found that the call logs were only about 5 seconds, meaning they really did not talk to each other on the phone. More women from the list came forward, and in total there were about 21 accusers, all with similar stories. So this is when the very controversial evidences come about. Of the 21 accusers, about 8 were eliminated because they were deemed to be not credible, and some even admitted that they were lying. Another woman who was being interviewed by the police, when they asked her, "Have you ever been inappropriately touched by a police officer?" she clearly says no multiple times. But later on, she came forward changing her story to, "Yes, I have been assaulted by a police officer." She described this officer as someone with a light skin like a Mexican and in his late 30s. Another woman who described the officer as black male and short, which also did not match the description of Daniel. And the lady who claims that she was friended by Daniel on Facebook, she was seen after the interview saying, "So is this good evidence? Even if he did not rape nobody, he still came in contact." It's an odd thing for a victim to say, "Is this good evidence? Even if he didn't do something?" Like, this is a big accusation. Something you wouldn't think a victim would ever say. So could all these women be really lying? Daniel's family and the defense believe that the reason why they were lying was because the interrogators might have approached the woman as, "We will take care of your warrants or whatever trouble you're in if you cooperate with us and give us a little bit more information." Remember, all these women got in trouble with the law. They had warrants out, they were being arrested, and maybe it was something that they used to try and get something out of it. There was also a lot more shaky evidences, such as the grandmother Janie. At first, when she was interrogated, she claimed that the officer was blonde and was about 5'7" to 5'9" in height, and didn't have a smooth skin. One of the key evidence that the prosecutor claimed is that Janie was the only one from the list that did not have a warrant or was in trouble with the law. She had no motive to lie about her story. The fact that people could not find a motive that she would lie convinced a lot of people that she might be telling the truth. Another woman who actually testified under the influence of drugs. Nobody knows how and why this woman was allowed to testify under the influence, but it did happen. Also, the DNA that was found in Daniel's pants, the prosecutors strongly argued that it came from a 17-year-old female victim, and it was proven to be skin DNA from private parts. But after the trial, it was slowly revealed that there's actually no test that's being done pretty much anywhere to prove which skin DNA it's from, like which part of the body it's from, and that the prosecutors did not have this technology, and this was a lie in court. Let's go back to the interrogation tape. Remember when he was stripped of his badges and his clothing? Contrary to what a lot of women claimed of having his private parts out from the zipper of his pants, you could see that he was wearing a very tight no-hole, no-zipper undergarments along with other garments underneath that was not so easy for him to take off. Because all the women were claiming that the zipper was down and his private parts were just sticking out. Some of the women swore that he came to their house, assaulted them, stole things from their house, and there were no DNA found linking Daniel to any of these accusations. Prosecutors argued that from every story of these women, his GPS system correctly matched where they were. So prosecutors obviously argued that he was there and this happened because his GPS does not lie. But the defense argued that of course he was there. He did come into contact with some of these women because it was his job, but the GPS also showed that the car never made long-term stops in these areas where he was being accused from. But what about the DNA from that 17-year-old victim? Defense argued that the amount of DNA collected was just the amount of like any other touch DNA. Touch DNA is something that you could transfer by just touching someone's items such as bags or patting their clothes down, and then you touch your other part of the clothing or you go to the bathroom, and that's how that DNA got on his pants. There was also 2 unknown male DNA found in his pants, which defense also argued that this clearly shows that it's touch DNA and you could get anyone's DNA by touching pretty much anything. During the court cases, there were a lot of people that wanted to put Daniel in jail and thought that he was really guilty. And according to some people, this was used to intimidate the juries and kind of, use that mob mentality. Defense and Daniel thought that they did have a strong case because there were so many conflicting evidences, but eventually he was convicted of the 8 of the 13 cases and sentenced to 263 years in jail. Minus that 1 DNA evidence, all was just victim's worst against his. His reaction to the sentencing went viral on social media. Is this reaction of a man being so guilty? Or is this a reaction of an innocent man being sentenced to life in jail? Daniel in prison still denies that he had done any wrongdoings and all of these women were lying, and that the police, that they were out there to hunt something and they pretty much found everything that tried to fit into their narrative. Some say that it's because, there were police officers that were actually guilty of doing this and they wanted to throw Daniel, who was a 26-year-old rookie police officer, under the bus so they don't get caught. Families also believe that the victims lied for a big paycheck because now there is a civil lawsuit for the victims and, if they win, they could get a lot of compensation money. To the victims, this was a horrifying day of a cop abusing his power and specifically targeting a group of women that they knew that would not speak out. It is odd that he would turn off his system, but again, we're not police officers. Maybe many police officers do this, maybe some don't. Maybe he was doing something shady, not specifically to what he was accused of, but he was just doing something else shady and he just got a huge bad luck. Regardless, a lot of people still believe that whether he's innocent or guilty based on the evidences, he should not have been convicted, especially 263 years. And I completely agree with that. Whether he's innocent or guilty, that's up to him and the victims that only know. The fact that the evidences were so weak, it just disturbs a lot of people, the fact that you convict someone with such shaky evidences. The latest update was that the US Supreme Court declined to hear the appeal of Daniel Holtzclaw's case. Let me know what you guys have thought. There were so much more information that I could not fit into this video. There's hours and hours of information. I just could not put it into this video. I just try to sum it up as much as I can. So check all those links down below. Come back to this video and let me know what you have thought about this case. Thank you so much for watching, and your like in this video helps to spread words about these cases. And I reply to all my early birds if you put on the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching.